Okay, today we're going to talk about linebacker play and eye progressions versus the run. We'll start with basic principles and we'll get into our various techniques. Alright, so linebacker eye progressions versus the run, we're going to say that the teaching of this is a mental rather than physical drill. So some basic principles in terms of what we can expect when we report for fall camp here in about a month. All teaching will proceed from part to whole, be very specific with the individualized techniques. There will be no ball. It'll be done at half speed. It'll be you and the guys that you're keying as it pertains to a 40 technique, a 20 technique, a 0 technique, and so on. All right. Each drill will involve just one part of the whole. Contact will be introduced very late. The idea is to feel so comfortable in that positioning with the good knowledge of the looks that you'll see, the potential blockers that you'll have, and the ways to defeat and escape those blocks. That is talked about and coached first. Then after that will come the actual contact. Okay, and the key here would be this: is that the linebackers must understand the progression of the players who could be used to block them. Okay, along with that, we'll understand the type of block. Right, and so when we get into it offensively, right, according to the formation, according to the back set, right, which our buck linebacker will communicate to the rest of the defense, right, there's only 2 or 3 plays off of that formation, off of that back set, right, and so that correlates. There's only 2 or 3 blocks, and we're going to have an anticipation of those, and we'll have a correct way of dealing with those. Right. So players will be taught how to defeat and shed blocks, and they'll understand their gap responsibility. The way that we declare your technique, whether it's a 40 technique, or whether it's a 20 technique, or a 0 technique, or the last technique we'll talk about is a 9 technique. Right. These numbers correlate with the gap, your gap responsibility. A 40 technique will be a B-gap player. A 20 technique will be an A-gap player. A 0 technique will be an 8-man spacing spill player. A 9 technique, okay, will be a D-gap player. And so we'll talk about all those and how they correspond to your gap or responsibility. Okay, then this is also crucial here, all right? Backers must understand they must identify blockers before looking for the ball carrier. There will be times where a crease will open and we want to press. That's our term for running through the offensive line to make a play in the backfield. But the majority of the time, the offense is coached too, and there will be offenders that you will have to defeat at the line of scrimmage. So having a heads up, pre-start on them in terms of progressions to the point of attack will help you. Okay, so again, it's a mental drill at first, rather than a physical drill. The physical part will come later. Let's head off to the techniques. The 40 technique linebacker block progression will be the first that we'll talk about. Our base defense is an under defense. In our under defense, right, to the tight end, to the Y, or their run strength, we'll have a nose guard, we'll have a 5 technique defensive end, and we'll have an S linebacker, a stub, and a 9 technique. Weak side, we'll have a 3 technique and free rush tilted off the hip of the offensive tackle. So we'll look like this. So that's the idea behind the 40 technique. By 40 technique, his outside foot will be on edge with the inside foot of the offensive tackle, and he'll look like this. Okay, he'll be off 4.5 yards base alignment. That'll change depending upon the blocking schemes we're seeing from the offense, whether they're a man blocking team or we're going to get depth out of 5. Or whether they're a zone blocking team where now we want to scoot up to 3.5. The eye progression of the MAC linebacker or the 40 technique, MAC primarily will be this. If we're in a solid front, the tackles now go to the tight end, so the 40 technique now becomes the buck linebacker, the weak linebacker to the weak side. But here we're talking under, and we're talking MAC linebacker. Okay, this linebacker's eyes will start on the offensive guard. And from the offensive guard, he can get the drive or the cut block.
any block like this. If he gets that, he wants to keep his outside arm and leg free and play his B gap. That's the first threat for the MAC linebacker in terms of his eyes. The second key would be the onside tackle. And so what happens now is anytime that we get a down block by the guard, if we get any type of down, we want to attack the offensive tackle and take a peek at what that offensive tackle is doing. Right? If the offensive tackle is coming down on us, right, then we get a natural replace with the defensive end, and us, with the defensive end now becomes a B-gap player, and we become a C-gap player, stacking at his hip, hiding at his hip. Okay? If we were to get any other block from the offensive tackle, let's say we get a base block from the offensive tackle, our eyes go 1 to 2, we're still running this way, we can now expect number 3, right, the backside guard, any type of fold block. Well, what we're seeing a lot in this conference is a lot of the offensive tackle folding in like this, and what we affectionately call the dart play. Okay, either way, this 40 technique will always be a lever player. By lever, he's sending everything back inside. That's where all this help is. So it helps to approach that offensive tackle straight ahead when you get your offensive guard blocked down, because whether it's the offensive tackle coming down to angle block you and wall you in, and you gap exchange with the defensive end, or the offensive tackle blocking out, now rocking back and forcing everything back in with the great angle that you took initially, because all your help's inside. Okay, if we get no offensive guard folding back inside, our fourth key then is the H, the running back, on any type of potential lead, say quarterback draw, or if it's a two-back situation, the fullback, on a lead play with the tailback right behind. Again, something like this, our angle is this way, and we want to send everything back inside. Okay. Our fifth key would be if, let's say we get pure down blocks, everybody's down here, and we get a late angle block by the Y. If we do get something like this, right, depending upon his angle, right, if he's under, we're over. If he's over, we're under. If the Y really works up the field, we can beat him underneath. If the Y is really tight, we can come over the top. Okay, but those are all correspond with the angle block, which is going to be similar to what we're seeing from the tight end, just later. Okay, stop there. The backside block progression for the 40 technique, again, his eyes are going to be on the offensive guard. If he were to see any type of scoop, and the difference between the scoop of the offensive guard as opposed to the down block is, with a down block, I can see the ear hole of the offensive guard. So on a down block, if I'm the MAC in a 40, I'm going to see the ear hole of the offensive guard look something like this. If that's the case, that tells me it's a front side play, and we'll run to that offensive tackle and do what we already mentioned earlier. If I get a scoop from that offensive guard, meaning that I can see his face mask, that his shoulders are square and he's trying to leverage the nose from the inside out. If I get something like that, then I know my potential blocker now, okay, is the center will be working up for me. Right? So this is where it becomes crucial that I need to know as a 40 technique whether we are in solo spacing or whether we're in 8-man spacing on the backside, and how I correspond. Okay, if it's solo spacing and I get this potential block to scoop away by the guard, that's my number one key. It's where my eyes are on. I'm going to run through my gap. If it's solo spacing, if it's any type of 8-man spacing, right? 8-man spacing means we've got the block over here in a 20 technique, and we have, say, the free safety come down in an Oz type situation, and we have the 3 boxes here. Okay, if I get flow away this way, again, I'm going to run through my gap, and the reason why I can do that is my B gap is because I've got 2 players to the buck, not only to run through the A, but the free safety here as a free hitter per se, a man that's unblocked, and so I can rest assured that with the free being the force player, that whatever run goes away will end up coming back to me. Okay, so that's the MAC linebacker on, let's say, a scoop block by the guard, anticipating the center coming off. The center should be blocking air, as we work right up the field into our deep. Okay, the guard could potentially, okay, if they feel comfortable in scooping their nose, come and scoop for us. That is actually the first threat for you. Your eyes are on him. Your plan of attack will be the same way. You're going to run your gap. Okay, they're thinking we're going to bubble over, and we're not. We're going to condense, squeeze, and constrict the gaps and supplicate the offense. Okay, if for any reason I get a pull by the guard, again, it's important. It's important to know what type of spacing I have. So if my guard pulls front side, okay, I have to know again whether it's solo or it's 8-man spacing. So this situation here is a little bit more critical. Right? If it's solo spacing, if this is the case, right, I'm always going to get a double team on my 3 technique. Anytime the guard pulls away from me, I'm going to double my 3. And my potential blocker here, my number 3, is this offensive guard. He's going to come off that block. Okay. If this is the case, if it's solo spacing, solo means 1 man, 1 gap, as per our under zone set lecture that you'll also be receiving. If it's solo spacing, 1 man, 1 gap, and I just have the buck, right? We're going to get a spill here by our rush. The buck is now a new force, and I must now leverage the puller and end up this way. This is if it's solo, meaning there's only 2 linebackers in the core with 7-man spacing. Okay, that's my reaction with the pull. Okay, I can't afford necessarily to run through because I'm leaving the buck out here to dry. Now, if it were, let's say, 8-man spacing, if we have the free safety sitting here, an extra guy, and Mac, you're on the 40 technique, right? The free safety now becomes the force, and the buck now overtakes the responsibility you had in solo and leverages the puller. Okay? Now, as a Mac, you're the extra guy, and now I can run through. Right? If it's 8-man spacing, if we're in Oz and we have the 3 boxes, you can run through. You're an extra guy on play away. If it's solo, right, we're taking away one of the guys, and you 2 must vice the pull. And so your progression on play away is onside guard on any type of scoop, the center, and then number 3, the offside offensive guard coming off on the double on the 3 technique. Okay. The 0 technique is our next technique. Right, so we'll talk about play side, block protection first, then we'll get into backside. The 0 technique is primarily the MAC linebacker, but can be the buck linebacker. Okay, our buck linebacker can also be a 0 technique. Those 2 will really get reps and play this technique. So the play side block protection will go from the center to the onside guard, offside guard, back, and then down the line tackle the tight end. Okay. anytime that we're a zero, it's 8-man spacing. And so you are the inside fit, you are a spill player. Spill player meaning any type of insertion through this line, through this front five. Insertion means any type of lead blocker, any type of pull or fold in here, I will spill. I'm going to play on top of any type of scoop or reach. Right? Any type of pure scoop or pure reach at the line of scrimmage, I'm going to play on top. Any type of insertion, fullback lead, tight end gets off the line, yums across and leads in, I spill. There's a two-back situation here, and the fullback leads in, I spill. The guard folds, I spill. That's the zero technique. There's a lever player to your left, there's a lever player to your right. Okay? The center is the first threat. It's a rare block, but let's say that the center wanted to reach for you, I would play over the top of that, and I'm going to play right through his B side, the B gap side throat. I'm going to play right through his throat. I'm going to play in a straight line. I'll look just like that. Now, if a more traditional block this way would be if the center were to scoop on our nose and the guard chips and comes off and a late, an angle block on us, our approach would be the exact same. I'm going to play in a straight line as much as possible and play as fast as I can and go right through his throat, keeping my outside arm and leg free in that big gap. Okay? So what we don't want to do is don't want to bubble, especially at the MAC, the zero technique position. We want to keep this as tight as possible and create a wall so that our lever player to the tight end side will have a run through that big gap. Okay? Those are our first two threats. If for any reason, okay, as a zero, I see any type of block back, so my eyes are on the center and I get a block back and I feel that the guard is pulling, right? As I see the guard fold up and pull and my onside guard blocks down, right, I'm shot out of a cannon, inside out, and this tells me to spill that insertion. I will spill that to the lever player. The lever player will see that and squeeze, and we'll have a natural vice on that blocker, and the run play will be nil. Okay? So our threat from the backside guard is any type of fold block. Okay? If the back were to lead, all right, and normally this is a two-back type situation. You see that's the fullback and that's the H, right? If the back were to lead in let's do it the side we're talking about. The back were to lead in a two-back type situation. Again, I'm going to be shot out of a cannon. You'll see your center, right, step to the nose. You'll have it. Your vision will go to the guard. The guard will slam down to the play side hip of the nose. Your eyes will then clear any full block. As all this is happening, you're flying downhill, the fullback's coming at you. You're going to fit inside out and squeeze and spill the play to, again, the lever player to your outside. Okay? All right. If the play were to go wide, okay, if the play were to go wide, you will now get late angle blocks by both the tackle and the wide. And again, if they're over, you're under. If they are deep, you can come underneath the block. If they are tight, we need you to rip and dip and get over the top of the block. The progression for the MAC linebacker at the zero technique is this way. All right, so the backside block protection for the zero technique would go center to onside guard to offside guard to the back to the tight end. Okay. Now all these things, you just go, my eyes are going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those things, a lot of it's a feel, but the majority of it is an anticipation as I'm flying downhill. So there's no shuffle in our vocabulary. Throughout the week, we'll have an idea per the back set what to expect. And once I get my initial key off the center, I'm flying downhill. And throughout the week, we'll be programmed as such to feel that, hey, 2 is not an option here. Here comes 3, and you will, be coached up in terms of how to defend and block through and get off the block at number 3. Okay. The center here again is number 1. Any type of drive or cut block. If I were to get something like this here, I'm going to play off of that. I'm going to play right through his throat with outside in leverage on that A gap. My outside arm and leg free. I'll play my inside hand to his throat, and I'll work to squeeze that center back into the A. Okay. I can get an angle or a full block, or an angle or a veer block from the offensive tackle, so or offensive guard. Again, let's say I get the center now chipping hard on the nose. He's working to the weak side, the back side here, so I'm starting to fly downhill, and I see that the guard is coming my way. Okay, if I do get something like this, a veer block or late angle or angle block by the offensive guard, the tackle now will work to squeeze my A, and there's a natural gap exchange where I come into the B. Okay, this is something that we can see with, let's say, a trap block. The guard is pulling right on the backside. That type of situation. This is a situation where that can be the case. Okay, another scenario as the MAC, right, is let's say I get this, I get a block back, and then I get a base here on the 3 technique, right? So as this is happening, I see a block back, any block back, right? So I get ear hole from the center on the nose. Any block like that tells me the play is front side, and that there's a puller. It's either a short pull or a long pull, okay? If for whatever reason I get a short pull up in here, okay, again, I am a spill player. The inside out of him and spill the play to my leverage player on my weak side or my right side in this case. Okay. Right. The block back from the center tells me that a pull is coming. Okay. And then from there, we'll get the back leading into the A. The back leads into the A. I'm going to spill it to my leverage player. Okay. I'm going to squeeze that A gap, condense it as best I can. All right. Now, what we can get here is, what we want to talk about is a trap block, right, to the 3 technique. The majority of the teams in our conference will trap 3 techniques, and so the blocking scheme will be as follows here. Okay, so if this is the case, if I'm seeing the center block back of the nose, my eyes go to the guard, and he is veering for me right now, okay? As I come up this way, right, I see the tackle squeezing, constricting, and working to spill the offensive guard. Okay, as this is happening, I'm going to work to squeeze and replace the tackle in the B gap. If I feel the offensive tackle squeeze me in, okay, I'm still going to condense and play off the hip of the tackle. So as the tackle comes down this way, I come down, and I want to get a tight fit this way. All right. The offensive tackle here should block air. Right? I'm Mr. Inside as a 0 technique. In this case, I'm not doing that, not with a trap block. Right? Not if I'm getting veer release from that offensive guard. Okay? All right? Your first initial key on this block should be the block back of the center. Should have some peripheral vision of a guard pull. Your onside guard to the weak side here is veer blocking for you. You're now going to replace the tackle as he squeezes, constricts, and spills the play. If the running back were to bounce, I'm seeing here to make a play. Okay. The majority of the time, in our experience, the offensive tackle is too wide to interfere with our read on the trap. Okay. The last scenario would be if I were to get, again, a pull with the offensive guard pulling, so my center blocks back, and I get a double team now on the 3 technique. As a 0, if that's the case, my rush is going to spill whatever shows. He's going to spill the first puller. I'm going to have a lever player to my right who will become the force player. I am now inside out. Right? The run through is going to be reserved on this for the backside leverage player to your weak side, away from this initial play. All right. So I am reserved to be a vice player. I'm going to spill the second pull. So if I get, say, the guard pulling, he's going to be spilled here with a tackle pulling around. All right. Our lever player here will assume force, and I must come off the hip of the rush and fit this way. Okay. My blocking threat on this case could be the offensive tackle late, chipping off the 3 technique. I must dip and rip that, right? Get into position to vice the second puller, can be in this position to cancel any running lanes to give our backside 8-man spacing player a chance to run through. So that covers that last block, the onside tackle, late ankle. Okay. Okay, the 20 technique, we will now work to the 20 technique, and our base under front will primarily be the buck linebacker. If we were to get to a solid front, and solid is our second front that we have, if we were to get to solid, our solid front is as follows, and now everything's reversed. The MAC is now the 20, and the buck is now the 40, okay? Solid is both tackles are to the Y, the tight end. Our under front is both tackles away from the Y. So this is solid. And the front we're talking about today is under. Under is our lead. Under is our number 1 front. Solid is our number 2 front. Okay. So here talking about the 20 technique. The 20 technique, okay, is going to line with his outside foot, even with the inside foot of the offensive guard. So really it's a 2-eye type of technique. We call it 20. Right? So he's going to be off 4 yards. He's going to look like that. Right? His eyes will be on the guard. Now, as we talk about the 20 technique, right, he really has to have, anytime the 20 technique is keying, he has to have vision of both these two. These are his 2 primary keys, the guard and tackle. It's really critical, okay? He has the key his adjacent spacing alignment, and that's really true for the 40 technique, which we talked about, knowing the difference between a down and a veer play when the guard blocks down, now the tackle comes down for you, or the tackle blocks out. So it's true for the 40, but it's absolutely critical here for the 20, okay, because the different schemes that he can get. Okay, the first scheme here is just the onside guard coming on a drive or cut block. And this is very, very rare. Right? Most of the time with this, it'll be a veer type release, and this will be true with a trap scheme. Okay, so anytime I get something like this, I see this threat come at me. Right? It's usually accompanied with this. I get also an angle block from the offensive tackle. Again, the 3 technique is a trap magnet. Right, and we will know that, and we'll defend that. But if I were to get this type of block here with the guard coming at me, what I want to be able to do is to come downhill and expect a gap exchange. Again, with the 3 technique coming flat and spilling, and I'm coming right off his butt and fitting right in this gap. Again, not getting wide, not coming outside the late angle of the offensive tackle. Fitting inside, I am now a B gap player. My gap responsibility changes from the A gap here to the B gap here because of the release of the offensive guard on that drive block or veer block to me. Okay, so that's number 1. Knowing your 2 or 3 technique and knowing that trap is an issue there. Okay, I could get the center on a scoop block, so if I get fan this way, Right? So if I feel fanned by my onside guard and tackle, that tells me the play is coming inside. The play is coming inside, and it could possibly be this right here. Right? With my 40 technique running through the B gap, this tells me now to run through the A gap. Right? My inside hand to the outside throat of the center, keeping my outside arm and leg free. Okay, so I could get a center scoop with this potential fan, this fan block. I could get, all right, a full block, okay, by the offensive guard. If that's the case, my scenario is still the same. I'm still running through, keeping my outside arm and leg free, with my inside hand to the outside throat of now the offensive guard, right? So I am a pure lever player in this technique, sending everything back inside to the 40 technique. Okay, and this would be the case in solo spacing. The 20 technique and the 40 technique will leverage plays back to each other. That's one man, one gap. Okay, so in this case, the 40 technique is doing this, and we're leveraging the play. All right, this insertion is a good time to now talk about 8-man spacing. And so if we were 8-man spacing, so now we have the free safety come in, become a part of the box, and we have this, right, as our boxes, right, lever, spill, and lever. Now with this situation, we get a run through here, right, I get fanned to me, right, as I start to run downhill. I think center number one, there is no center. Now I think backside pull, right, and I now spill. I now spill the play because I want the ball to go to my free hitter. Again, it's unblocked. Okay, so depending upon your help in the defense, you play this insertion two different ways. If it's solo, you're going to lever it. Right? If it's 8-man spacing and you're in a 20 technique, you're going to spill it. And so we'll have to know those two ways. Okay, as a black linebacker. Okay, and, the solo, the 8-man spacing for you will be Oz. That's open side zone where the free safety spins down. Okay. Okay. Then the other potential blocks that we can get that are a part of your keys is anytime I get a hat on by the guard on that 3 technique, again, my eyes go to my number 2. I can get a fan, which we just talked about. I'm thinking center to backside fold, okay? Center on the scoop, backside guard or tackle on the fold. I could get, with this block, a double team. I could get a double team here, okay? If I get a double team, that tells me that the play is coming right outside the double team. Anytime I get a double, the play is coming right outside the double. They're doubling to anchor the run point, okay? They want to be able to anchor that 3 technique or anchor that 5 technique or what have you, so they can run right off his butt. And so that's what a double tells you. If I get a double, I'm going to work right outside. I expect now my rush to spill and I to overtake it and become force. Okay, so I could get a double team. Okay, that's called read force. All right, and that would be the case again in solo spacing. If we were to have 8-man spacing, right, the rush spills, the free safety becomes force, and I become the inside vice. Okay, that's 8-man spacing. The other potential block I could get with a hat on by the guard is a backside pull by the tackle, and that's going to be covered on flow away, but that is a potential threat. I could get that. So now I'm thinking backside guard come off of it. Those are the 2 threats with a hat on by the offensive guard. All right, so 1, I could get fan. 2, I could get double team. 3, which is a backside play, right, I could get O-tackle pull. So this is why it's critical that we have to key offensive guard, offensive tackle to a 3 technique.
because of those three scenarios with the guard blocking on the 3 technique.
Okay. Now the final block that we'll get play side, in talking play side, is the insertion block by the fullback here.
And so again, it's important as a 20 technique to know, is it solo
or is it 8-man spacing? These are our two terms. We don't play defense outside of these two fits. It's either one or the other. It's black or white. Right? If it's solo, I know that all my help is inside here with the Mac. He's going to recognize the insertion and we'll bice together. Okay? If it's 8-man spacing, I need to recognize that my help is here with the free safety. The Mac is running through and I'm spilling to the free safety this way.
So the back leading in, knowing where my help is, tells me how to play. Either I play solo and my help's inside, or it's 8-man spacing and my help is outside. We're going to send it to our help either way. Okay. The 20 technique now with backside block protection. So now you're getting a backside read from your offensive guard. Remember, as a 20 technique, we're still really keeping these two, okay? And so if I were to get a backside block, let's say I get a scoop here with the tackle chipping, all right? Again, I've got to know whether it's solo or it's 8-man spacing. If it's solo and it's just me and a 40 and I get this type of block and the play is going away, right, I'm going to run through my gap. Okay, there's no insertion. The Mac is running through his gap. And that's the definition of solo. One man, one gap. Okay. Okay, if the case was, if it was 8-man spacing on this deal, if it's 8-man spacing and I get this block, okay, now I want to play fast, and we'll give the free safety that backside gap, okay, because we want to always use the free hitter, okay. So I now push to the B gap. The Mac can now either rock back or go front side with the play that's going away on the scoop, the zone play. Okay, so that's a scenario if the ball was going wide on a scoop. Okay. Okay. The other potential blocks outside of your onside guard scooping for you would be the center scoop. Okay, center to offensive backside guard. Okay, so I could get again this, seeing this. Okay, with let's say the center coming off on me that way. Right? If I were to get that, okay. If I were to get that, I'd play off the center, right? Normally it'd be something like this. Let's do this. This is what it would be. Okay, if I were to get the guard, let's say block back with the tackle pull, we talked about this earlier. That's why it's important to see have vision of both the guard and the tackle. If I were to see this block, right, how I play it, okay, corresponds with solo or 8-man spacing. Right? If we're in 8-man or solo spacing, right, this would constitute a pull, right? What I would do is then, the block would be this way. The Mac here, or the end would spill, the Mac would go to create force, okay? And I would look now to get over the top and help vice with the Mac what's happening. So I'm going to work over this way on that play, okay? If the case were 8-man spacing, or now we've got this. All right, let's say in this case now he pulls up. If that's the case in 8-man spacing, all right, I now know I can play fast because I have an 8th guy. Okay, so in this case, the tackle's pulling up, but my threat is that offensive guard chipping off on the nose. I have to get over the top of that offensive guard. The offensive guard is not the insertion. I get over top of the guard so that I can spill the offensive tackle in that case. Right? What we always want to do is, when any type of insertion, let's say that this is the line of scrimmage, any type of insertion this way. All right, so this could be a guard
a tackle, a fullback, a tight end, whoever. This could be a receiver, whoever it is. Whenever somebody inserts the line of scrimmage, okay, we always want somebody here, always want somebody here. That is what we call a vice. We want somebody outside in and somebody inside out. So that's what we're getting right here. So we'll come over top of the late angle by the guard to vice the tackle pull. Okay. The other potential blocks that we can have are, again, just late angle blocks. All right, so let's just say that I'm getting fast scoop away. I'm getting fast scoop away here. Let's say it's this. Right? If the ball is going fast away, right, even with these scenarios, right, this is only true in 8-man spacing. If it's solo spacing, I'm here and I'm here, saying that the wall ends here. This is force. Nothing's coming back, or everything's coming back. Nothing's getting outside of this. Okay, so even though these are potential threats, depending on whether it's solo or it's 8-man spacing, whether you're getting right up the field or you have the freedom to run fast and play with speed on any type of pulls, let's say, these guys may be out of the equation. The idea is for them to block air while you run through, and with great force, the ball ends up coming back to you. Okay. The 9 technique, block progression, right? Progression he must understand and his eyes must follow are, number 1, tight end, right? To tackle, to guard, to back, to offside guards. In other words, he will go right down the line, okay? And this is when back is at home, right? We'll call this a dot position, right? He's right underneath the center, okay? So there is no near back type situation. The S is alignment. We experimented in spring being tilted. We'll go back to playing square. My near foot, my right foot in this case, my right toe will be at the heel of the defensive end. Okay, I'm going to be on my starting off my right toe to the left toe of the tight end. Right, so tip to tip. Okay, then depending upon the ability here of the S and the ability here of the Y, we can get tighter or wider depending. Okay, but that's the base alignment, right? So in this case, his eyes go down the line. So from the tight end, you know, I can get a base or I can get a reach. The S in this primarily, right? We're going to be talking here as if it were backer force. So backer is talking to the S. Nothing gets outside of him. Keep your outside arm and leg free. Your inside hand will go through the throat. If I get any type of replacement block, so let's say the Y blocks down, now the tackle pulls, it's the same scenario, right? Outside arm and leg and free, inside hand and throat. What's really critical here is your foot placement. Any play like this with the tackle coming out for you, your inside foot must be down his crotch, your outside leg must be free, but that inside foot must be up. Okay, so here, as they're coming down on you and you're here, right, I'm going to attack it this way with my inside foot up, my outside foot free, with my shoulders square. Alright, we get into that progression, we hit with the top of our pads, then extend with the inside hand to the throat. We're in a very strong position there. Okay. And then your other threats are similar, just further down the line. So I could get this potentially be the same type of scenario, okay? Or I could get a lead block from that potentially right there, and all that happens with the down block by the Y, okay? So if I get, in other words, if the Y comes at me, I play the Y, outside arm leg free. The Y blocks down, I just go down the line, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? So if this were the case, I'm going to meet the back at the angle he's coming for me. My inside foot down his crotch, outside foot free, hit with the top of my inside pad, extending with my inside arm or hand through his throat. Okay. The one scenario here that we do have to talk about that changes this progression is if now this back is now offset strong. So now we look like this. So now our progression goes 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5. Okay, so in any type of near back set, okay, the S will recognize this and he will say Minnesota. What Minnesota means is that I have an offset back, or this could be a tight end, another tight end, this could be a receiver. It's any offensive offender who's offset near toward the tight end. This will tell me now to widen slightly, okay? Depending upon what we're seeing from that set, but we will widen, right? At least a man, widen a guy, okay? So I'm gonna widen. I yell Minnesota. That's for 2 reasons. Number one is because you are a force player. We want to make sure that you have the necessary width to play force. You are also a flat player. You want to make sure you have the necessary width to play the flat. And then number 2, you're saying Minnesota because you need to alert the MAC that there's no friction on the tight end. So we're sacrificing the friction on the tight end off for the MAC on, let's say, the angle block, okay, for the fact that we want to make sure that everything comes back in. So the idea is, if I do get this type of situation and I'm here, I set the edge, set the wall, let's say the MAC is still in the 0, that's a tough situation for him, but at least the MAC knows that the ball is coming back inside. Okay, the ball is not coming outside. Under no circumstances, this defense starts with contain. Okay, that's the 9 technique. Okay, 2 more. Plug linebacker block progression. The plug linebacker is any linebacker that's walked out on a number 2 when the force is either the corner or the safety. It's either sky force or it's cloud force. That's the plug. You're the interior gap inside. So in that scenario, when you're a plug, so this could be cover 2 or cover 8 or cover 4 in our system, your first key will be the guard for run or pass. Right? If I were to get a pass set, if I get a pass set, I want to have vision. This is my number 1 key. I want to have vision of that back, whether he's working away from me or working to me. For us, that's load or split, kind of what we talked about. Load is everyone going strong, split is everyone going weak. I want to have vision of where he's going, then my eyes want to go right to the slot. I'm going to angle Dallas. I'm going to play off the slot, off of his break, knowing that the back's working to me, and this is my number 2 in progression in terms of the receivers, number 1, number 2. I could have a new number 2 if I were to get some type of release like this. Okay, so if it's pass, my eyes go from the guard, having vision of the back, to the receiver. Now, if it's run, okay, if it's run, if I get low hat here, all right, if it's run, I want to have vision of the back as well as my number 2 key, because I want to know, all right, is it coming to me? Is it tight? All right, if it's tight like that, all right, my eyes want to go from 1 to 2 to 3, all right, and depending upon the split, if the split's tight and here comes the slot, I want to run right to him, get at the line of scrimmage, right, and play off of him, right, play off his inside pad because you're that plug, right. If the ball is coming to me right now with low hat, I know that I'm being attacked right now. Again, depending upon the split. If the split's really wide, if the slot's out here, then I can do that. We're not going to see a lot of that, okay? We're not going to see a lot of those splits. We're going to see tighter down splits. These guys are really glorified tight ends. Right? The slot will come at me this way. Right? If that's the case, and I'm a plug player, plug means I'm going to attack him head up. My eyes go from here to here. That's the biggest thing. Look him right dead in the eye. Lock him out and fit off inside. Okay. The 2 types of blocks you'll get with flow coming to you on low hat is you'll get an angle block, you'll get a scoop block. Right? Those are the 2 blocks. We'll treat those both the same, keeping our inside arm and leg free because of being a plug player. The next technique is backer technique, and all backer is now I am the force player. So everything we just talked about is true with the exception. Now if I do get this and he comes at me, I meet him head up, but now I work outside. The biggest thing is the eye progression from here, 1 to 2 to 3. Okay? Any potential play away, right? If I get scoop away, right, I always check backside. So I see 1 to 2 going away, always sit and check backside. Right? If it's run looking away, 1 to 2, check backside. I want to play for that. That's my responsibility, especially if it's backer, because I am the flat defender. Okay. That's it.